Hello there and welcome to my guide for painting these Traitor Guard Psykers from Blackstone Fortress. As you can see, the first thing I've done is spray them up with some Mechanicus standard grey spray. After that I painted their trousers with some Dryad bark. I then painted their coats with some Gal Vorbak red. And any armour plating was painted with Rhinox hide. I then start to paint any of the metal areas with Iron Hand Steel. Except for the weights at the bottom of the chains, I used Iron Warriors for those instead, as I wanted a slightly deeper, darker colour. I then painted the pistol handle that's poking out of the holster with Abaddon Black, and gave the whole miniature a wash with some Nuln Oil. Once that wash had dried, I started to highlight the Dryad bark with a 50-50 mix of Dryad bark and Gothor brown, which was then followed up by Gothor brown just by itself. To highlight the coat, I used some Word Bearer's red for the first highlight, and for the second, to make it look a little bit more leathery, I used some Doombull brown. The armoured areas were highlighted with some Catachan flesh, and the weights at the bottom were highlighted with Iron Hand Steel. The Iron Hand Steel sections were then highlighted with some Stormhost silver. I gave the pistol a quick highlight with some Corvette black. With those details out of the way, I'm going to start on the next set. For that, I'm going to use Mournfang brown on the belt, along with the holster. Gavenblight Dinge will be used for the fur. Any gold details will be painted with Retributor armour. And all of that will get a wash with some Agrax Earthshade. While that wash dries, I'm going to work on the skin with some Bugman's Glow. And the skin on the underside of the fur will be painted with Rakarth's Flesh. And then the skin and the Rakarth's Flesh will both receive a wash with some Reichland Flesh Shade. Next, I'm going to move back to the belt and I'm going to do a 50-50 mix of Mournfang brown and Scrag brown for the first highlight, with the second highlight being Scrag brown just by itself. Next, I'll start highlighting the gold with a 50-50 mix of Retributor armour and Uruk armour gold, followed by Uruk armour gold just by itself. For the final highlight, it'll be a 50-50 mix of Uruk armour gold and Stormhost silver. This is just on the tips and the points. After that, I will dry brush the fur with some Storm Vermin fur. For the skin on the other side of the fur, I'm going to use some Rakarth flesh just to relayer that and avoid all the recesses. This will be followed by a 50-50 mix of Rakarth flesh and Wraithbone for the first highlight, followed by Wraithbone just by itself for the second. Before I start the actual Psyker's skin, I'm going to paint their eyes, and for that I'm going to use some Abaddon Black, followed by a little bit of matte white. Now I'm going to work on this skin properly, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some Bugman's Glow just to relayer everything, avoiding all the recesses. This will be followed by a 50-50 mix of Bugman's Glow and Cadian Flesh Tone for the first set of highlights, followed by Cadian Flesh Tone just by itself. Then a 50-50 mix of Cadian Flesh Tone and Kislev Flesh. And then a final highlight of Kislev Flesh just by itself. I'm then going to use a little bit of Caribou Crimson on the head around the bumps to make it look like the psychic power that's surging is kind of sore. Finally, I'll paint their teeth in with some matte white. And once you've based them how you want to base them, that's those guys finished. I had an absolute blast painting these guys. They really are filled with character and they're really nice models to add to my army. They're super fast as well. They didn't take any time at all really, only clocking in around about 2.5 hours. Thank you so much for watching. If you follow this guide, I really do hope you found it useful. If you want to see more of these, just give the channel a subscribe and the video a thumbs up and maybe a share, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you so much again, and goodbye for now.